Assalamu alaikum. Let's come closer, inshallah. We're going to start our program. So everyone come closer towards the table and let's form a little circle, a little halaqah, a little group, inshallah. We want to feel involved in the program, right? You don't want to just sit, you know. We sit on the walls in Jummah, which is not good, right? But let's try to be a bit more involved right now, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First thing, may Allah reward you all for coming. Say Ameen. I'm very happy always to be together with all the young people and the young guys. It's always very fun, but also spiritually uplifting for us to come together in the house of Allah Azza wa Jal and to participate in some remembrance of Allah, and then after that to have some fun as well, have some food, have some different things. Alhamdulillah, the weather is nice and cold, so I like that. I hope you guys like that too, inshallah. I want to say that feel comfortable. It's the one important thing. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, comes in hadith of Adab Mufrad, Sahih al-Adab al-Mufrad, that the Sahaba, when they would come together, they would laugh and they would enjoy and they would fall even on their backs laughing. And when they would talk to each other, you know how we tease each other in our own American way. They would throw watermelon seeds at each other. Sounds funny. But they would do that. But the hadith at the end, what does it say? When something important happened, كانوا الرجال, they were the men. If something important comes now to be serious, then they were men. Right? So there's nothing wrong with enjoying having your time together as boys and young men, and remembering Allah Azza wa Jalla at the same time. This is the spirit. We support each other. Right? We support each other. This is one building which each brick of this building is supporting the other. Inshallah, we're going to have our program soon. We invited Shaykh Ubaydah Badat. He's young, just like all of us. I'm young also, by the way, guys. But yeah, he's also, mashallah, a recent graduate of Islamic Studies program. And I want to mention, we grew up together in Miami. We were kids, 7, 8 years old. That's exactly the beauty of this life journey, and why we want to have clubs or Muslim gathering Muslim clubs, Muslim gathering, Muslim youth groups, so that 10 years later you're going to see each other and you're going to be proud of each other. That he's mashallah this now, and he's righteous and he's pious and he's doing this with his life. Right? This is the beauty of this. You're all living in South Florida. You're for the most part, you're going to stay here. You're going to grow up. This is your circle of friends. And after 10, 15 years, you're going to see, mashallah, beautiful success. And you'll be happy for each other. And then you'll build a community. You being here right now is building tomorrow's community. This is very important to keep in your mind. Right? Things don't happen in a vacuum. Islam didn't just come to America just out of nothing. People came here. People built Islamic organizations. They did stuff. This is second generation, third generation, whatever. Each generation is going to have its contribution. You're going to have your contribution to Islam in America. Whether it's written down or not, it'll be historical for the community. So that's important for you to keep in your mind, that you coming to these youth groups is very important. Shaykh Ubaydah, he's, mashallah, recent graduate of different madaris, Islamic institutes in the UK. So I'm warning you, he has an English accent. So just try your best to pay attention, inshallah. I have to sometimes ask him, can you say that again? Can you say that again? Because it gets a bit confusing. But he sounds very smart because of that too, right? That's the cool part, when you have an English accent. He's a very talented, very intelligent person, which is why after his talk, we're going to have a Q&A. And in this Q&A, you can ask whatever you want, anything you want. And inshallah, him and I will both be here to answer. And we'll it'll be a nice, good, beneficial session and fun as well, inshallah. And then we'll conclude the program, and you guys can have food and whatever activities you guys want to do. So inshallah, Shaykh Ubaydah, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Just again would like to apologize on my behalf for having an English accent. If it does get a bit confusing, or if there's anything you didn't understand, that's fine. Just turn your Google Translate on, inshallah, and it might be able to help you or hinder you as well. just as Shaykh was actually mentioning regarding change and development and growth. And when we first moved to Miami 2004, me and Zayd grew up together, and for Fajr, I remember as well, as kids, there was only like 4 people there. And then you go to the same masjid now in 20 years in the future, or however many years it's been, and subhanAllah, Allah's grown the community so much. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made things happen in such a manner. But that thing happened in such a manner because people had a concern. People had this idea that I need to become better. People had that concern and that kind of fikr and that kind of thinking of, I need to become a better person. I need to go through an evolution of change. And I just want to keep that to be the kind of fundamental theme to focus around. And inshallah, the way that we'll traverse that will be through the life of one Sahabi of Rasulullah. And Sahabi Rasulullah is Abdullah bin Zubayr radiyallahu anhu. And I want to keep the idea there though, of change and of evolution within the self and of making yourself better. Because when we have that idea in motion, inshallah, then me as a person as well, I can go back and I can do some self-reflection. I can go back and I can think about myself. Okay, I'm here at the moment. I'm at this position in my ibadat, for example, in my worship, or in my akhlaq, in my character, or in any other aspect of my life, job or whatever. And then I can come back to it and I can think, okay, how can I change it and how can I make it better? And just using the example of Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu, just to give a bit of a bio of Abdullah bin Zubayr. Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu, he's a Sahabi, the son of a Sahabi, the grandson of a Sahabi, and the great-grandson of a Sahabi radiallahu anhu. So Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu's mother is Asma bint Abi Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And his father is Zubayr ibn Awam, the cousin of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his grandfather is Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. And his great-grandfather is Abu Quhafa. And he's the first Sahabi that's born in Medina. He's the first of the Sahaba that's born in Medina. This guy, just in terms of his lineage and just in terms of his background, family background, he's got a lot to go on. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba hear of his birth, the streets of Medina are filled with takbirat. Everyone's shouting like Allahu Akbar. He's an inspiring kid from the moment of his birth to the moment of his death. When you look at the life of Zubayr radiallahu anhu, Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu, as he's growing, where's he growing up? He's growing up in the household of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why though? Because his mother's sister Aisha is married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he'd always just be around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he learned how to act, he learned how to be, and he's also like recognized as one of the earliest people to give the bay'ah, a pledge of allegiance to Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was only 7. And when you look at his life, he fulfills like a bunch of different roles. You want to look at the best warrior, you look at Ibn Zubayr. And why, if you want to know where Islam came from in Libya, Algeria, or the Byzantine regions, it's all because of this one Sahabi, Ibn Zubayr, and the tactics he used. You want to look at a businessman of like amazing caliber. You know, this guy's making money, mashallah. Look at Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu. He's making money. And the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, they talk about him in this manner where Abdullah bin Zubayr, if you want to see the best example of worship, you look at Ibn Zubayr. And one example that's mentioned in different books, Imam Bayhaqi radiallahu anhu narrates as well, that Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu was once in his house and he was praying salah. And a snake slithered into the house. Snake slithers into the house. And my reaction would be, I don't know about you guys, but my reaction would definitely be, I'd jump up on the first thing I could jump up on and run out of the house screaming. Right? Like, no doubt in my mind. Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu doesn't flinch because he's not realized there's a snake there. Because when he's in his salah, it's as if the whole world has come out of his view. He doesn't care about the world anymore and he's just focusing on Allah. And that focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken him out of everything else. So when he's in his salah, he's totally focused on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes to business matters though, they say, oh, this guy's like, in another narration mentioned by Imam Bayhaqi as well, that when it came to business matters, Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu was seen as, you know, how can this person, like, he's so into the dunya, but like, how can he be such a great abid? Like, in each role he possessed, he gave it his 100%. In each role he possessed, he gave it his 100%. Political matters again, 100%. It came to battle. Bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu gave it his 100%. But his whole focus as well is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you look at the stages of his life, the early stages of his life of development, they're Allah and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he becomes a soldier. And when he's becoming a soldier, he's giving his all. To the extent that the generals of Uthman radiallahu anhu will turn around and say that we only won Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, and these whole regions because of the dedication and the mindset of Ibn Zubayr. One example is mentioned, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum are an army of 10,000, and the Byzantine Empire in front of them has an army of approximately 80,000 people. And Abdullah bin Zubayr radiallahu anhu tells his army, okay, you guys go and distract them, I'm going to go for the leader. And he walks up to the leader of the Romans with such, like, this guy is not a soldier, because he's just walking like a normal guy, and he manages to jump on him and then takes care of him. Again, though, with the dedication that I'm taking care of you, lillahi ta'ala, makes the whole army give up. Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu, when you go to the next part of his life, where he's a businessman, he's going his 100%. When you look at the money and the wealth he's accumulating, mashallah. But again, his whole dedication, his whole focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Giving charity, doing the Hajj, doing so much things. And even though he's doing his 100% in business, his whole focus is on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This man is known as the only person to have ever performed tawaf while swimming. He's the only guy to ever perform tawaf while swimming. Tawaf isn't easy. Tawaf is a very hard thing to do, even when you're walking. But imagine, the Mecca was flooded at the time, and just to show his dedication, he'd done the tawaf while swimming. In terms of his fasting and all these other things as well, he's 100% dedicated. But each stage of his life, he's self-reflective. He's asking himself, is this lillahi ta'ala or is it not? And you'll see him making that decision over and over and over again. And I just want to come to the end of his life, and obviously, for the people that know, there's a lot of controversy there, but to summarize, inshallah, in sum, when you come to the end of his life and he's a leader, he's the Imam of Mecca and Medina. He's the Imam of Mecca and Medina. And in that moment, when he's presented with a choice, and the choice is either, surrender and be imprisoned and stuff, or die fighting. Why though? Because he knew, look, what I'm doing it lillahi ta'ala, and if I'm doing it lillahi ta'ala, I'm going to go all out. And Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu, he really epitomized that idea. So I just want to kind of end on that note, inshallah, and I'm sorry for ending a bit early, but end on that note, inshallah, that whatever we do, have number one, awalan, have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ahead of us. Secondly, think about what we do while we're doing it. Think about why we're doing stuff. Actively want to change. Actively want change. Just another thing about Ibn Zubayr radiallahu anhu, he's known as one of the scribes of the Quran. He wrote the Quran out in the time of Umar, in the time of Bakr as well. I want to become like Ibn Zubayr. I don't know, Ramadan's coming up, guys. And when Ramadan comes up, everyone tries to hit the book. Everyone tries to do a juz, maybe whole Quran, might try half, depends on everyone's level. I want to ask you guys, inshallah, from now till Ramadan, number one, make it a goal. Try and finish one Quran. It's going to take time. It'll burn you on the inside. It'll be something very hard. But make it a goal on yourself, I'm going to finish one Quran. Secondly, before Ramadan, you guys have the YM on Saturdays, right? Yeah. Every Saturday, try and make it a goal. I'm going to do Fajr and Dhuhr in the masjid. Every Saturday, make that a goal as well. Fajr and Dhuhr in the masjid, inshallah. So I'm not only coming from the program, I'm coming lillahi ta'ala. And I'll be coming at a time when nobody else is present. I was talking actually to one of the Quran teachers of our local area, and he was saying, I feel so guilty because my students who are converts, they're coming for Fajr and I can't be bothered. And I live around the corner from the masjid. But it's one of those things, if I'm coming for Fajr, I'll see the change. So Fajr and Dhuhr, inshallah, in the masjid. So first goal, inshallah, guys, try as much as you can, one Quran before Ramadan. push yourself. Push yourself, dedicate yourself. Make your goal Allah-centric. Second goal, inshallah, forget every other day. Just try, if you're doing any other day, alhamdulillah, but just try as well the Saturday, Fajr and Dhuhr. Make that a goal. Wake each other up. Back in high school, we had a friend of ours. He was a funny guy, mashallah. And when he was a kid, he used to hang out with a bunch of girls. And what he would end up doing was telling them to wake him up for Fajr. He'd get them to phone him to wake him up for Fajr. And khair, whatever, but different reasons, he'd always wake up. And they'd phone him again to make sure he's gone to the mosque. And these girls are not Muslim, but it was just a funny little anecdote. When a person wants to do something and they have the proper incentive placed in front of them, they'll go for it all out. Even if they never get it, but they'll go for it all out. But when I do this, do it liwajhillahi ta'ala. Allah ahead of me, right? And last goal, inshallah, to kind of push towards, make my 5 times salah an unforgivable. Meaning, I'm not going to forgive my 5 times salah. So whether I pray in the masjid or not, I'm going to hit that, inshallah. If I've seen Muslim girls on the Nova campus, mashallah, they're there 5 times salah. FIU campus, I've seen Muslim women, they're scary, mashallah, they walk around in their hijabs, but they'll hit 5 times salah. I then feel guilty as a man. What's wrong with me that I don't have the bravery or the audacity to go and perform my 5 times salah? And really, there's no excuse, right? Khair for Jumu'ah, most guys, college, whatever, high school, different reasons. But 5 times salah should be like I'm not going to forgive it on myself. Why though? Because that's miftahul jannah. Allah, Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, as-salah miftahul jannah. Salah is the key to paradise. When Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions that, there's an idea that's present now. What is jannah? How does Allah describe jannah? Allah describes jannah as ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا قطر في قلب بشر. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he talks about jannah, he mentions it as that the eye cannot see and the mind cannot imagine. Why does Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention it in that way? It's to give you that, sometimes they'll mention that, okay, in Jannah you'll have a palace made out of a pearl, in Jannah you'll have bricks made out of gold, in Jannah you'll have this, in Jannah you'll have women, in Jannah you'll have that, whatever. But why is this thing mentioned? That you can't even imagine it. Because my desire comes to a certain level. But what Allah's going to give me is going to be 1,000 times more than that, 1,000,000 times more than that. I was just reading the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba and Ibn Abd Razzaq as well, just as a light reading. But the Jannah Jahannam section yesterday, and subhanAllah, all these hadith were coming up, and both the authors were saying the same thing. That Allah mentions, or Rasulullah mentions these hadith to tell you that Allah is going to give you more than you can even imagine. So inshallah, try and make these 3 goals as much as you can. Awalan, 1 Quran before Ramadan. 1 Quran before Ramadan. Push yourself as much as you can. 1 Quran before Ramadan. Secondly, 2 salahs at least, fard in the masjid. And thirdly, try and hit your 5 times salah, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khairan. Takbir. Alhamdulillah. I think when he mentioned specifically about the brother that was using other sisters, whether non-Muslim or Muslim, whatever they were, sisters to wake him up for Fajr, I got a little confused, but I think Shaitan was a little confused on that one too. Shaitan was like, I don't know if I succeeded, or I don't know what's kind of going on with this guy. But Allah Azza wa Jal, he said he's married now, mashallah. Allah Azza wa Jal guides people to His path through very strange pathways sometimes. It doesn't make sense to us. But you see, what life is, right, is you have this beautiful Persian handmade carpet, and it has so many designs. If you put an ant on that carpet, is the ant going to see the designs? Is the ant going to see all the patterns? The ant will go from one side to the other side and maybe get off of the carpet. It won't really know exactly, did it go north, south, east, west, whatever. But it got off, it somehow got somewhere. It's the same with us. Life is like very confusing, we'll never see it the way Allah sees things. He's Khaliq, Subhanal Khaliq. He's the creator. Allah sees things. Allah tells us, some of the points, these basic things, holding on to your salah, holding on to this, holding on to that, and being unapologetic about it. Unapologetic means that we don't give excuses for it, whether that's to ourselves or whether that's to other people. We don't make excuses for our deen. He mentioned Abdullah bin Zubayr anhu was flooded in the Kaaba and he went swimming. He found an idea, I'm going to go swimming and make tawaf. Right? How many people know how to swim here? Everyone? Yeah, usually Miami boys should know how to swim. I mean, it makes sense. I don't know. Yeah, some people don't know how to swim. That's fine. It's fine until you get in the water, right? You see a flood outside, you don't go swimming though, right? But you see that the point is, the qualities of being a strong worshipper of Allah. And in light of that, then being a strong young man. What it means to be a strong young man is something that every culture, everywhere you live, will indoctrinate you or those young men, try to tell you what does it mean to be a young man. What he described for us right now, the life of Abdullah bin Zubayr, is what it means to be a strong young man, a pious young man. Right? So, these are some important things for us to think about. And specifically with Ramadan around the corner, right? Make high goals, make big goals. Right? At least when you're young, you should make big goals. Okay, when you get older, some people you meet them, they're like, literally, what it is, I've done everything in my life, I'm just waiting now to go. But when you're young, that's the time you make big goals. So right now, at least right now, before our time comes. By the way, you don't take life for granted. In December, one of my cousins in Pakistan, he's 30 years old. 30 years old. He passed away with a heart attack. A heart attack. You talk to doctors or whatever, what is the average age and all that stuff. You don't think you're going to get a heart attack at 30. Right? So the thing is that we have, yes, as young people, we have big hope and aspirations, but we need to direct it. It needs to be directed to the right place. For example, it needs to be directed to learning your deen. How many of us are happy with the way we read Quran? Okay, it's not the end of the world if we don't read good Quran. What does that mean? Start working on it. Improve. What can I do to be a better reciter of Quran? It's never the end of the world. You don't lose hope, specifically when you're young. But what can I do? Okay, I have this is some problem in my life. I'm missing this from my deen. What can I do to fulfill it? What can I do? How can I do this? And when it comes to the seriousness in ibadah, by the way, as a young person, you can be a very pious person. Don't underestimate that. Right? Sometimes it doesn't cross our minds. But the young were some of the most pious people. Some of the most pious people were when they were kids and they were young. In December, everyone celebrates Christmas and everything, right? But forget that. Isa alayhi salam actually was very pious, right? Even from such a young age, right? From such a young, Allah chose him when he was a child, everything. Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam, who's like his companion, peer at that time. Yahya alayhi salam is narrated about him when he was 7 years old, that someone said to him, you see all these kids playing, why don't you go play? So Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam, you know what he said? He said, we weren't sent in this dunya to play. Mic drop or whatever you guys do nowadays, right? Yahya alayhi salatu wasalam, what did he say, right? The guy is probably like, man, have I lost it? What is this kid saying? Like, what am I hearing from this kid? But subhanAllah, that was the reality. He saw things which even the adults probably didn't see. That man, the older man probably was like, what is this kid talking about? But even this older man probably couldn't see what Yahya alayhi salam is seeing. You understand what I'm saying? So don't think that, I mentioned the hadith, Allah Azza wa Jal, has so much love and finds it so amazing when a young person comes close to him. When a young person comes close to him, Allah Azza wa Jalla, this is phenomenal. Usually I gotta wait till they're like 60 and have some diabetes or something, then they come. This guy's young and he's already realized that he's gonna come to me one day, so he's already chosen to come to me now. Already chosen to come to me now. So don't, every single moment, every time, why I wanted to do a halaqah because, end of the year, whatever, all this type of stuff. And yes, time is extremely important. Ask Shaykh Ubaydah in our madrasas when we study, like how much the teachers emphasize to make a schedule and make sure every minute you're not wasting time. This time, you're never going to get it. You will never be young like the way you are again. What you can do right now, why is it that I emphasize? So many parents, I teach kids Quran, right? Many of you are much older. Right? I have one little student here. I'm not gonna pinpoint him right now. But, these kids, they're like 5 to 10. What do I tell the parents? I tell the parents, this age that they're going to get to memorize Quran, they will never get it back again. So make use of it. The same thing with all of you. You have right now an energy and a capacity, an ability to learn deen, to become close to Allah in a way that you will never get that opportunity again. Keep that in mind. It will not be the same later on. The tawbah that a young person makes is different from the tawbah of a middle-aged or an older man. Keep that in mind. The Ramadan that you're going to have, that spiritual experience that you can have, you're not going to have it again. You won't. That's just the reality and that's just the truth. So make use of your time. Make use of your time. One of the poets, what did he say? One of the poets, he says in a very beautiful poem, I can't remember the exact Arabic words right now, right? But وَإِنَّا لَفِي الدُّنْيَا كَرَكْبِ سَفِينَةٍ نُظَنُّ وُقُوفًا وَالزَّمَانُ بِنَا يَجْرِي. That our example is like, we're all on a boat right now, we're all on a ship. Have any of you guys been on a boat? You must have Instagrammed it too, I assume, right? Of course. How can you go on a boat and you're not going to show the whole world, right? Anyways, I'm on a boat. This is amazing. Soaring through the waters. But what is like, when you go to you travel out now, the poet, he says, our example is like we're on a boat in the ocean. We think like, there comes a point where, you think like you're standing, but you're not. The boat is still moving. Are you moving? No, you're not. You're perfectly in place. If you want to pray, you can even pray on the boat. So our example in life is like we're on a boat. The boat's moving, but we think we're not moving. But time, which is the ocean is time. The waves of time, they're pushing you to a destination, to a shore. You're going to end up at a shore one day. You're going to end up at a destination. You know what that shore is? What's the shore for life? Inshallah, Jannah. That's good hopes. I was going to say something a bit scarier, death. But the shore of life, before you get to Jannah, inshallah, Jannah. Of course, may Allah grant us all Jannah. You're going to be in Jannah what? Young. Right? What does that mean? Youth is very important. Your youth is very important. If you're chosen to be in Jannah as youth, that means Allah values youth a lot. Because you're going to be young in Jannah. So value your youth, value your time. And this is kind of the point, inshallah. And we'll do I thought we could do a little Q&A, comments, whatever you guys want to add in, whatever you guys want to say. Feel comfortable, feel involved. Right? This is supposed to be a fun environment, a comfortable environment. Feel involved, ask a question. I'm pretty sure you guys have questions. I don't think you guys, I'm pretty sure you have a question, right? We already have, inshallah, questions. Any question you have, maybe about some historical matter of Islam, maybe something about fiqh, maybe something about salah, maybe something about life. Maybe you're having a hard time because you're going through graduate school and the typical, or you're going through high school or college, and the typical question that they always ask, can I shake a woman's hand or not? a typical question. But fine, you want to ask that question, go ahead, ask that question. Ask whatever you want, inshallah.
It's just a matter of if a person can be awake at that time or not, right? Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam does mention in one hadith that the best time to pray salah is in the last portion of the night. And generally the fuqaha kind of say the same thing. But then Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu is a perfect example. Min ashab Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, sahabi, he would tell Rasulullah that, look, I can't wake up early. So Rasulullah tell him, look, pray your witr but before you do that, pray your 2 rakats tahajjud. So before you even go sleep. So that way you're guaranteed. Like, witr is basically wajib, so don't miss it.
I'll expand just a little bit on that. Just exactly what he said, right? If you pray your sunnahs, mashallah, if you're very pious and you know you're waking up for tahajjud, first of all, wake me up too, give me a call, inshallah. But if you are, then yeah, wake up at that time and you can pray your witr at that time. Otherwise, you should pray your witr before you go to sleep. That's basically what yeah, you should pray your witr before you go to sleep otherwise. Because you want to make sure you don't miss your witr. Inshallah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I come up from a Christian family, and I'm the only Muslim in my family. So my question is to both of you. How do I not convert or help them see the truth? They won't listen to it.
First of all, takbir for this guy. MashaAllah. May Allah make him a noor, a light for his family. I'll add a little bit, Shaykh Ubaydah can add a little bit as well. So at the end of the day, it's important to understand that hidayah, guidance is in the hands of Allah. And guidance comes through many different means, right? People accept Islam, you have to talk to the people. You probably have your own journey. People that accept Islam, we have, mashallah, other brothers here as well. Brother Mustafa and other brothers, mashallah. And if you ask each person what brought them to Islam is unique. It is unique, it's special. The way that they, what is it that brought them to Islam? So the reality is, for example, your family, they need some sort of, something unique. It's the guidance of Allah at the end of the day that will come. But what are a few things that we can do? Number one, be the best representation of Islam. Right? Be a good representation of Islam. You have to be kind, you have to show moral. Your family should see after you've accepted Islam that you've become a better person, because in reality that's what Islam does to a person. And most of the younger converts that I know who've accepted Islam, their parents are always like, wow, he's a changed person. He's a changed person. And he went from whatever he was to now, mashallah, he's organized. He's waking up on time. He's getting good grades. Your Islam shows there as well, by the way. Islam says to have good grades. Okay, Islam says to be good in school. Islam says to be punctual. Islam says to be an organized person. So, character. Because, as the ulama mentioned, the anbiya, the prophets, what made them so spectacular, or what made them prophets? A prophet is someone who's a beacon of hidayah, guidance. But what made them prophets? They were so perfect within themselves that they were able to pass their perfection on to those around them. So when you perfect, in reality, your knowledge, your Islam, your practice in yourself, right? In reality, why were the Sahaba so able to spread Islam? It was, Islam, the sword was involved as well, but it wasn't only the sword, right? It wasn't only the sword.
Yeah.
It wasn't through force at the end of the day only. Right? Indonesia and these countries, how did they become Muslim? It wasn't through the J word. It was through, what was it through? It was through Muslim businessmen came, and they were righteous people, and the history of that. How did Islam spread in Sindh as well for a great, time as well?
That was J word.
So he has a difference of opinion. But anyways, all I'm saying is that you don't need to be, kind of crazy to spread Islam. You can be a very peaceful and pious person, inshallah, as well. So, show them, now that's one aspect, the character. Show it in example. Number two, then, of course, education. Education. But how do you do education? You don't force education down someone's throat. It has to be done with wisdom. Show them. You know, obviously, if you're a family member, they obviously want, you're still a family member, they haven't you know, they want to know what is it that you believe in. Why did you change your life? How did you change your life? So when you talk to them about it, that will speak to them something. If you talk to them, you know, about your deen, you know, these are, again, things that I would assume. If you ask maybe some of our older convert brothers, they might even know better than me. Why? Because they've actually been through it. And many of them, you know, there's one brother here, I know, he's not here right now, but he accepted Islam, his mother accepted Islam, someone else in his family also accepted Islam, right? How did that happen? Through practice, through guidance, through talking about it, through education, through learning, and then through dua. You need to make dua.
Sorry, just to add as well, Shaykh Zayd mentioned about how Islam spread. But what you're speaking about is the empire of Islam. So the Islamic empire spread very quickly from the lands of the Arab to France within 100 years. But the people's minds changed over time. So so the lands were taken, but the hearts weren't taken. But hearts are only taken when you make dua for those hearts. You work on those hearts. You work on the hearts, inshallah. So make dua at night as well, and inshallah Allah will change things.
And kind of like as he mentioned, for example, in France, like, you know, Algerians, you know, and many other, you know, North African people, Arabs and stuff, they came, you know, to France. Through them, Islam spread. The minds. Is it a Muslim country? No, but many people have accepted Islam. Is America a Muslim country? No. By state, no. But Islam has spread. Why? Because of character, because of akhlaq, because of our deen, because of our practice, because of our da'wah. Right? So it's kind of the same thing as he's mentioned.
Yeah, I think the whole thing about learning other religions and refuting them ends up being a waste of time. In essence, know what Allah is trying to tell you more than what another person believes, right? And when you actually learn your deen, you understand there's a lot of nuance. When you get into the nuance, there's more nuance, and there's more, and there's more. When you do the whole, I like to be like perennial argumentalist, I don't know, arguing on 15 different fronts, you don't actually know what you believe in yourself, right? So more focus on the self and focus on your deen, inshallah everything else will then come, rather than arguing on 5 different fronts.
I think that's a very good point. Whether it's to a non-Muslim or a Muslim who just differs from you in something, you don't always need to refute. You don't always have to, you know, take the stick out and kind of like yell at this person and you're kafir and this and that, astaghfirullah, you know? You don't have to do that, you know? You're not a bigger scholar if you do that. The scholars, they mention in their tradition that actually we want to save people from calling them a kafir. We don't want to call people kafirs. We want to save people. The goal of a Muslim is not to make people, you know, of course, the creed and aqaid has its system. One of the fundamental goals of aqaid, and you're a student of knowledge, you can read Sharh al-Aqaid al-Nasafiyya, it mentions in the beginning, and other books as well, that the ghaya and the goal of these things, yes, it is to, one thing is, you know, to defend, you know, the deen from corruptions. That's one way of looking at it. One is to argue with others. Again, okay, doing it to the capacity of defending Islamic belief is a good thing, yes. You don't want Muslims to start believing that, yes, God has a son or something, wala'adhu billah, right? So you want to, so as he mentioned, first learn your aqaid. Learn your aqaid, learn your beliefs. Learning your beliefs and establishing them is in itself a da'wah. That's what basically he's trying to say. That, you know, there's 2 ways to doing things. One is ithbat, one is rad. One is ithbat basically means that you establish. You say, this is what we believe in. And the other way is by refuting. This is not what our belief is. But ithbat comes first. You got to first establish what you believe in. And that in itself is a message or something which will, you know, transfer, you know, over. So you don't need to always refute. You know, you don't need to always worry about that. And if you're going to do it, make sure you're able to do it. Make sure that you are licensed to do it. Make sure that the ulama have given you that the ijazah, you have the talent to do it. Otherwise, you're going to do a bad job, and it's better you keep silent then. So, don't refute people unless you're knowledgeable and you have the right to do so. How would you what?
Yeah. What's your background? Your family's background? Where from though originally? Jamaica, Bahamas. So I mean, I don't say connect you with food, but food's a big connecting factor. Going back Jamaica and taking you back 200 years, go learn the history of Jamaica, learn that whole colonial project, and you bring it as a whole thing together, right? Because it's not just about the deen aspect. That's one aspect, right? But it's also an aspect of culture. Because a lot of the times, a lot of parents have this fear, and maybe it's rightfully so as well, where if my child becomes a Muslim, they're going to lose all the culture that they came with, right? Learn your culture, understand what that is, understand what that entails, understand all the baggage you come with, and when it comes down to your parents then and your family, you're working towards developing that as a bridging factor rather than as a splitting factor. So for example, in the Jamaican example, yeah, there's a lot of I don't say African religions that come into it as well, but they have a part and parcel as well as Christianity. Try gain an understanding of what they believe in, and then when it comes down to the Islam aspect, you're just showing the bridging factor.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
No, just one more question. So I have a potential spouse that's also a Christian, and she's like on the fence about Islam.
Mm-hmm.
She's in, but she's not in. So when it comes to spouses that are not Muslim,
Yeah, he can answer that one.
Yeah, I think that we should have a detailed conversation about that, inshallah. So let's sit maybe tonight, inshallah, get contact. That requires a bit more detail, inshallah. I think it's not a one step, it's not a one thing. This requires counseling, it requires discussions, it requires different things.
Read some Quran. So find a Quran teacher. That's the first step. Second is wherever you can find a fiqh teacher to understand basic ulum, like ibadiyat and whatever. Gain a basic grounding. Thereafter develop and develop and develop. It takes time. I have an ustad, he's been studying for 50 years, 55 years now, and he's back in his 70s, and he tells me that it's a never-ending process. Like he still calls himself ana talib al-ilm, like you're the shaykh, and publish books and everything, but it's more like it's a developmental process. If you ever think that this is enough, you flopped, you failed. Right? It's just find as a grounding though, learn some Quran, and go and learn some fiqh with the teacher though.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to that, inshallah, that Quran is very important because sometimes you want to jump onto the the bigger sciences and all this kind of stuff, but our Quran, we're not reading fluently. We haven't memorized a good amount. We should try to memorize. Memorizing the entire Quran is a different subject. Maybe you not, maybe you won't, maybe you will. But memorize as much as you can. Tajweed is considered like the first science. Right? Tajweed. Yeah. So tajweed basically comes under Quran. It's like the door to the rest of the sciences. Right? You start doing a bit of basic tajweed. After that, you go into basic fiqh, as he said. Go into basic fiqh. That's usually a good starting point as well. And then you kind of touch, but it's just important to have the mentorship of the scholars, right, along that way. And that's the most important thing. If you have that mentorship somehow, then you'll find way into continuously learning, as he's mentioning.
These textbooks and stuff for school can be really expensive,
For university or for? Yeah.
So they'll have these websites where you can download PDFs and stuff for free.
Oh yeah.
So does this fall
Anazaka.
into like stealing?
I mean, look, there was actually a conference on this in Turkey 6 months ago regarding copyright law within the Sharia. Generally, I think the ulama come. You got two camps. You got the camp that has a bit more money and publishes work, and you have the camp that doesn't as much, right? Generally, what they say is, if I'll give you a more of a thinky answer, but bear with me as well. I'm a poor student, so that's probably why I'm giving you the answer. If it's used in a manner where you have no other ability, and I think in America, for some reason, you people are insane, and your textbooks cost $300 for like 200 pages or something, that doesn't make sense, right? I think if you were to use an Anazaika copy, inshallah, then either just or whatever, right? Maybe it might be a bit better than spending the $300. But if it's a textbook which you can afford, it's $50 or $60 or whatever. Myself as well, I've got books that are worth hundreds. It's fine. Sometimes you have to invest to gain knowledge. It just depends on the context. Hopefully that answers. Yeah, خلاص.